fans, what is good? The answer to that question, of course, is One Piece. One Piece is what's good. I am back after a pretty long break of almost 2 weeks, but I'm back, and as you can see, I'm in a new room. The old room I was recording in, probably not going to be in there much anymore, if at all. It's mostly going to be this new room, so yeah. We back. So today we're going to be talking about Fujitora and how he is not weaker than the other admirals, and I think he's just as strong as the admirals we've seen at Marineford in the past, and as strong as Ryukyugu. So this video is stemming from the generally common perception that Fujitora is weaker than the 3 OG admirals, aka Kizaru, Akainu, Aokiji. Now obviously not all admirals are equal, right? Aokiji, Kizaru, and Akainu were not all the same strength, they were all pretty close, but I think anybody could see that Akainu was the strongest. He was portrayed that way, he acted that way, he was the strongest, right, of those 3. But just in general, there's kind of a tier we put those 3, the 3 OG admirals at, and it's a tier that most people don't place Fujitora at. They say he's a tier below. I'll see some people saying that Marco is as strong as Fujitora. I see some people even saying that Zoro is as strong as Fujitora. So we're just gonna go over this, and we're gonna talk about why Fujitora is severely underrated, and he is actually just as strong as any other admiral in this whole series. So now let's just talk about the first thing that pops to anybody's mind, Fujitora's struggle in Dressrosa. So at Dressrosa, we saw Fujitora fight Zoro, in which Zoro seemed to pose a threat to him. In a sense, we saw him go against Doflamingo, and we saw him not be able to stop the birdcage, and that's what made a lot of people go, this guy is weaker than your average admiral. And even when he was fighting Luffy, and when he was fighting Sabo put up a very good fight against him, and Luffy, he didn't even go Gear 4th, and it seemed like Luffy was actually doing something against Fujitora. But there are a lot of things to understand here. What were Fujitora's motives in Dressrosa, first of all? It was not to win. It was not to take Doflamingo out. It becomes clear that Fujitora's motives in Dressrosa were for Luffy to defeat Doflamingo, to give the pirates a win, and to expose the world government for being the shadow big organization it is. He wanted the world government to kind of have a failure there so he could expose them and so they could change, and that was pretty obvious. He basically said that's what he was doing. When he first came to Dressrosa, he obviously wasn't planning that. He was probably just going to take Doflamingo out, but once Luffy came on the scene, he kind of changed his mind, you know, and that was the plan that he had going, and that's pretty obvious. And with the birdcage, when he went trying to stop the birdcage, he could have gotten the birdcage, but as I said, he wanted Luffy to defeat Doflamingo and the birdcage to go out, and for Dressrosa to be saved by a pirate, and put that bad spotlight on the world government, because he obviously wants it to change. And I'm pretty sure that if Luffy had lost and Doflamingo was really about to kill everybody, Fujitora would have come in and taken him out. Like, I don't think that's a far assumption to make. Fujitora could stomp Doflamingo if he wanted to, right? So that is the first thing I want to talk about Fujitora. Second thing, with the Zoro fight, the Luffy fight, and the Sabo fight. First off, with the Zoro fight, there's not much to say there. That's like such a small plot thing. Like, to bring that up to say Fujitora is weaker than the other admirals isn't really fair. Like, on that note, why was Jozu able to body slam Aokiji? Why was Marco able to stop Akainu? Right? So those are just some things we have to consider when we're talking about how strong Fujitora is. Another thing with the Sabo and Luffy thing. For Sabo, obviously, Sabo is very strong. He's like first commander level, and first commanders, it's not like they can't put up a fight against an admiral. Like, an admiral is obviously going to win by a pretty large amount, but commanders are able to hold admirals off, not even just first commanders. Like, even if we go all the way back to Marineford, Jinbei straight up blocked Akainu's attack. You know what I mean? People seem to graze over that. They're like, oh, how did Jinbei block Big Mom's attack? That's crazy, even though it was a weakened Big Mom. Jinbei blocked a fully powered up, fully healthy Akainu. and Jinbei's in the commander range. So commanders have that ability to be able to block an admiral or do some stuff against an admiral. In a battle against an admiral, they're not completely helpless. So with Sabo, we don't know how strong he was before the Fire Devil fruit, but he was definitely extremely strong. Dragon Claw, maybe second commander level, maybe even first commander level. And once he got the Flame Devil fruit, he got really, really, really strong. Now that's not to say that he was as strong as Fujitora, but don't forget, by this point, Fujitora knew that Sabo was Luffy's brother. Fujitora respected Luffy, and he wanted Luffy to defeat Doflamingo. So most likely, defeating Sabo wasn't even in his prerogative. That was not his goal, to defeat Sabo or even take him in, even though Sabo was part of the revolutionaries. Fujitora himself wants to change the world government, so he probably has a little bit of respect for the revolutionaries in the first place, but then also the fact that Luffy and Sabo are brothers. Fuji knew that, and Fujitora wanted Luffy to defeat Doflamingo and get off the island safely, so why would he take out his brother? You know what I mean? And plus, as I said, Sabo isn't some weak guy who's not even commander level who can't fend for himself. He would be able to hold off an admiral. I know it looked like the whole fight, you could see that Sabo was on the back foot. He was breathing harder than Fujitora. He was clearly on the back foot in that fight. It wasn't even equal. But as I said, Fujitora taking Sabo out probably wasn't even his intention. He probably just wanted to hold Sabo there. You know what I mean? But he obviously had to do his marine duties at the same time. So that whole arc, he was kind of straddling between his own agenda and marine duties. We saw that. So that Sabo fight and the Zoro fight, and with the Luffy fight, I don't really have to go that much into it. Obviously, Fujitora was mad at Luffy. But still, he had that agenda for Luffy to get off of Dressrosa safely, having defeated Doflamingo, and cast shame on the Marines for all the stuff that they do. So even then, it's arguable whether he was actually trying to defeat Luffy, and even that whole time when Luffy was fighting Fujitora, it's not like Luffy was winning. And Luffy was commander level at the time, and as I've stated many times, Jinbei could block a Kainu attack, right? Jozu body slammed Aokiji. It's not like commander level people can't do a single thing against an admiral, right? So that's all I have to say about Fujitora and his fights in Dressrosa. With Doflamingo, obviously Doflamingo was scared of Fujitora. We don't even really have to go into that. But let's just talk about now feats, now that we've kind of debunked the Fujitora didn't do as much in Dressrosa because he was weaker. So another thing people like to bring up about Fujitora is that he is blind. I don't really have to explain this one. The being blind is just a cool facet of the plot that Oda decided to put into Fujitora to make him more cool. His observation hockey is off the charts, and he is obviously extremely capable of making up for his sight, and even going beyond making up for his sight. With his observation being so strong, he can feel stuff and all of that. Like, we've seen that him being blind isn't really a handicap. Oda has made sure that the observation hockey more than compensates for that, so that's not really something you can bring into his strength. Now let's just look at his feats. First off, he's a pretty master swordsman, like just straight up, he's a very good swordsman. And Fujitora, his gravity is no joke. So I know people are like, oh, his Raging Tiger didn't do that well, or his gravity holes where he put Zoro, put Luffy, they were able to get out of that. Now, as I stated before, obviously his intent was not to take them down at the time. But secondly, even if his Raging Tigers did do all that, and obviously part of it was Oda couldn't make him do too strong stuff for the sake of plot. But let's talk about Fujitora. This man brings down meteors, okay? That's something that Madara Uchiha did, and that was big. And obviously Fujitora's meteors aren't as big as Madara's, but still, bringing down a meteor is a big thing. He lifted up a whole city worth of rubble and was gonna drop it on people. Now I know people might be like, oh yeah, big whoop. First off, those feats are just as good as any feat we've seen Akainu do. Like Akainu, he made his own meteors, the red dog, he made all those flaming rocks fall down, stuff like that. Aokiji with the Ice Age and all of that. Those abilities that we've seen of the 3 OG admirals are not more powerful or more impressive than anything we've seen Fujitora do. The thing with people saying Fujitora is weaker is mostly just perception. But here's the thing. The amount of gravity force, the amount of gravitational force it takes to bring down a meteor or to raise a whole city of rubble. So when Fujitora makes that whole city worth almost like island mass, like an island width mass of rubble, rise above the city with that much area, with that much gravitational force to bring it all up over that big an area, he can push that all down. All that force he used to bring it up, he can push it down. And if he pushes that down, you do not want him to push it down. And the gravitational force it takes to bring a meteor out of suspension and down to this Earth, he doesn't need to use that amount of force to bring down a meteor now, does he? This man can just use all that force that can take a whole meteor out of space and bring it to Earth. He can use that amount of force on a single person at a concentrated point. Think about that. Do you know how powerful that is? And we know he has massive range with it. He could cover a whole island with gravitational force, even though it was going up. But he could bring that down on somebody. Or horizontal. Imagine a raging tiger with the gravitational force to bring down a meteor that could blow through a whole mountain. How is that less impressive than a Kainu doing some giant magma dog or a bunch of magma meteors blowing through a mountain, or Aokiji freezing the ocean, or Kizaru doing some kind of big light show? It's not less impressive. Do you realize how crazy that is? The gravitational force to bring down a meteor to cover a whole island in gravity. That is insane. And if we're just going into theories, he could potentially even make a black hole with his gravitational powers. We have not seen that, but that is definitely an Admiral slash Yonko level ability that he could definitely have. We don't know. We may never see that. That just is something thrown that out there that he could have. But as what we have seen is insane in and of itself. What we have seen is no less a feat than anything a Kainu, Aokiji, or Kizaru has done. It's not even less of a feat than what Kaido has done. Kaido blew through the top of a mountain, right, with his borrow breath. He's one-shot Luffy or whatever. Big Mom, she's done Spear of Elbaf and, you know, made the whole army of homies and all of that stuff. Whitebeard, he's like split the sea, all that. Fujitora brought down a whole meteor. He covered an entire city in gravitational force. I know I keep saying that, but I want to drive that point in. How is that less? How is that less of a feat? How is that less power? That's arguably more power than what we've seen from most of the top tiers. And as I've repeatedly stressed, that force he takes to bring up a whole city of rubble, to bring down a meteor, he can bring down on one person. He can throw horizontally at one person, at two people. He could destroy a whole army in one blow. If he has that much gravitational bandwidth, if he can cover that much area with such powerful gravity that he can lift the whole city, that he can bring down. He can take down armies, he can take down a single person. His devil fruit is exceedingly overpowered. And not to mention, bringing down a meteor in and of itself. He can bring down meteor showers. That's OP. Of course, top tiers can kind of deal with that, but still. Like, even think if he brings down a meteor, but doesn't bring it all the way to Earth, controls it with gravity, and horizontally chucks it at somebody. Fujitora is OP. People need to stop sleeping on him and saying that he is weaker than all the other admirals, than all the Yonko, that he's only like, that he's as strong as Marco, because of a perception that he didn't do as much as he could have done in Dressrosa, when we know the reason he didn't do as much as he could have done in Dressrosa. Fujitora is mad. He's mad powerful. He's just as strong as Kizaru or something like that. Like, he's not weaker. Sorry if the video changed, my microphone kind of fell. But point is, Fujitora, he's not weaker than the other admirals. I hope I've made a good enough case for that. I believe that admirals are Yonko level, more or less, or maybe Fujitora's not quite Yonko level, but point is, Fujitora, he can hang with every single top tier. He's not weaker than them, just in a nutshell. Maybe there's obviously a little bit of small kind of tiers, like small tiers, like maybe tier this admiral tier, then this admiral tier, then this admiral tier, maybe, but I don't think it's as big of tiers as we make them out to be. I think that Fujitora could hold his own against Kizaru, possibly even beat him if the wins go his way, or maybe Kizaru could beat him. I don't think that there's that much of a difference of them. I don't, like, Fujitora, I think admirals are Yonko level. I honestly think Fujitora is Yonko level. Like, I don't think that there is such a big difference or such a big gap between Fujitora and all the other top tiers that we make them out to be. We know his reason for not doing as much in Dressrosa, and we know his feats are insane. They're insane. That's really all I gotta say about Fujitora and why I think he's as strong as the other admirals. Fujitora is a really cool character. I really respect him. But yeah. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoy my content, and only if you enjoy my content, like this video, subscribe and turn on notifications for more One Piece content. I'm going to be posting more regularly now. You can be assured of that. I know I took a break, almost 2 weeks, but I'm back at it. I'm going to be posting a couple times or once a week, once more. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my content, and only if you enjoy my content, like this video, subscribe and turn on notifications for more One Piece content. I'm going to see y'all in the next video.